Hi, it's John Arps here again. In the last tutorial I talked about the template I made and how it can vastly improve and increase your workflow and the speed of your productivity. And now in this tutorial I'm going to, as quickly as I can, show you how to actually make these templates and some of the commands and shortcuts that'll be useful for you to do it. So we're going to start with a completely blank project. We're going to go File, New, and we're going to create an empty project. Here in the dialog box we're going to create, for starters, 16 audio tracks. They're going to be stereo, and in my case they need to be output 3 and 4. And I'm going to create. Okay, once I've done that, we need to create the audio instruments that I commonly use, and in this case I'm going to create 5. Those 5 are going to be battery, the virus, and contact. Battery and virus. The virus and contact being multi-channel instruments, and then, all 3 are going to be multi-channel instruments, and then the other 2 are going to be the sidechain control instruments that I was telling you about in the previous tutorial. So we're going to be making 5 software instruments, again output 3 and 4 for now, and there they are. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to open the environment by hitting Command 8. Now in the environment, this is where all the objects that exist in your project live. So this is kind of like the heart and the brains of your project. And in here I'm going to create those plugin instruments that I was talking about. So the first one I'm going to load up is Native Instruments Battery. And this will be a multi-output 12 stereo, is the one I like to use. Then, just wait for it to come up and close it. Then in the second instrument, I'm going to load my virus TI plugin, which is under Access, obviously. TI Snow, multi-output. And wait for that to load up. There we go. Close you. And the third instrument, create contact. Multi-instrument, multi-output instrument, 16 stereo outputs there. That's as much as I can have. I'm not going to create as many auxes as that. What I am going to do is I'm going to create, for battery, I'm going to predict I'm going to need 8 stereo outputs for battery. That should be plenty. Now, there's a very, very useful function in Logic. When you create a multi-channel instrument, you get this little plus icon here, and this basically automatically creates auxiliary channels for you that sequentially order the inputs of the instrument that you've clicked the plus button on. So in this case, with battery, I'm going to click the plus button 7 times, so I get a total of 8 stereo outputs, including the stereo channel here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. With the virus, there are a maximum of 3 stereo outputs, so I'm going to click this twice. 1, 2. And then for contact, I'm also going to just set up 8 stereo outputs. That should be enough for me. If I need to create more later, I can, but 8 should probably almost definitely cover my needs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, with regards to buses, the way Logic works is they kind of want you to, when you load up an auxiliary send, rather a bus send in one of your channels, it creates an auxiliary and routes the input from the bus. I don't really understand why they've done that. As a result, it's kind of not so straightforward to create a bunch of bus channels sequentially, but there is a way. What we do in the environment here is we go New, Channel Strip, Bus. Okay, so we've just created a new bus. Now the problem is within the environment here there's no way of creating a whole bunch of them that sequentially increase the channel input. So here you can see bus 1. I could duplicate this here, but then I'd have to manually go through and keep changing the input, or I'd have to go New, channel strip, bus, etc., etc. And I want 24 buses. It's going to take too long. So what we do is we go back to the arrangements. Command tilde here, by the way, cycles through all open windows, very useful plugin. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create, very useful shortcut rather. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new track with the same track as this one, using Command Option S. That's create new track with same instrument. And I'm just going to reassign this channel by hitting Control and clicking, and I'm going to reassign it to I'm going to reassign it to bus 1. Okay, there's bus 1. And now, using the shortcut command, or it's within the track functions here, new with next channel strip or instrument, or I like to use shortcuts, very, very important to use shortcuts, command, option S, and I'm going to press this 23 times to make a total of 24 buses. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, that is not working because I pushed the S key. And again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go, 24 buses. Okay, so that is a very, very swift way of creating basically all the environment objects that I'm going to need in my template. Okay, you know, that's probably the fastest way I can think of. Let's see, looking at my notes here. Yeah, okay, so now we can get into the job of naming and coloring the objects that we've just created. Now, I mentioned you know, having a color association. It's quite useful to have that going on. So in our environment here, we can make a multiple selection of things that are all basically part of the same group. So with regards to, say, battery, I've selected battery here, and then I'm going to shift click and select all of the battery auxiliaries. There they are. I made one more than I intended to. Never mind. So now that I have these objects selected, I can, by hitting Command C, sorry, Option C, I can get the color selector up, and I like a dark green for battery, so I've just done that. Let's see what else. Then what we can do is you can also sequentially name your auxiliaries or any channels or objects when they're selected in this way. If we just double click and type in battery aux 1, okay, and that's going to name them sequentially 1 through 8. So that's pretty useful. Then we're going to quickly do the same thing with the virus, and actually we're going to name the battery channel here, block capitals, battery, this is the virus, can't spell. And again, select the auxiliaries and the virus, and I'm going to color this, I don't know, a kind of a brown there. I'm going to give it that color. Not the best color, but whatever. And then contact, and all the contact auxiliaries are here. And again, color, I'm going to give that a sort of a, I don't know, an orange. Maybe that color, an orange. And again, I'm going to name this object contact, and we're going to do the same sequential naming system, contact aux 1, and it sequentially numbers them 1 through 9. So, let's see what else we need to do. Yeah. Assigning icons to your auxiliaries is also very useful, just so you can see that they're auxiliaries at a glance and not an instrument channel or not an audio track or whatever else. So as all of these are auxiliaries, I like to have all the auxiliaries having the same icon. So the icon I've been using for auxiliaries is that one, and then for our instruments, battery, I've got the native instruments icons. I can't remember where I got them, but you can find them online. There's a virus I got, and here is for contact. Let's see what else. Now if we go back to our range page, you will see that, well, for starters, we need to put the auxiliaries into our arrangement as well. So again, just clicking on any channel here, I'm going to do Command Option S. That's created the same instrument. I'm just going to reassign this track object to be an auxiliary. And now, because my auxes are sort of sequentially named and numbered, by selecting one of these and then doing Command Option X, I should get 6, 7, 8, right? And then I'll just create a new one of the same, reassign this to be my contact auxiliary. Again, create new track with next instrument or next setting. Those are my 8 contacts. and I'll make a new one, reassign, mixer, and I should be able to find my, oh, where's my virus? Haven't done the virus. Yes, there they are here. So I made a bit of a mistake there. This is actually virus aux 1 and 2, and these are, in actual fact, contact aux 1 through 7. Now, just need to create with next, and I can delete that. And there we have all our auxiliaries. Battery 1 through 8, these are all stereo auxiliaries. Here are my 2 virus auxiliaries, and then here are the contact auxiliaries. Over here, these 2 instruments here are going to be the simple synth plugins that I will use for my sidechain control. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to reassign these because I don't want them to be 4 and 5. The other instruments I create in my project that I'll actually be playing will here, I want them to be instruments 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. I want to just put these well out of the way so you can actually reassign what these instrument objects actually are. So you select it, and in the inspector here, there's the channel selector, and you click and hold, and you choose instrument, and then here is a list of all the instrument channels that you could possibly select. I think it goes up to 128, I believe, which is a lot. I only need 23 and 24. So there's 23, there's 20, nope, wrong one. Instruments 24, just going to name these key 1 and 2. And select both of them. We can simultaneously load the ESM into both. Now then, we've got a lot of we've got all our instruments, we've got all our auxiliaries, and then we've got all these buses here that we're going to use. Now the buses in the template that I showed you in my previous tutorial, I had set up, the first 4 were set up as my sort of master sub-mixes. So I had drums, bass, melody, and atmosphere. So I'm going to do that here now. Drums, atmos. I do it this way because I just know now that buses 1, 2, 3, and 4 correspond to drums, bass, melody, and atmosphere. And it's just an easy thing to remember, so that when I'm creating new tracks or whatever and I want them to be in the drums or in the bass or in the melody or in the atmosphere subgroup, I can just very quickly assign the appropriate bus as an output. And similarly, I'm doing the same thing. 5, 6, 7, and 8 are going to be my effects buses for those submixes. So this is going to be my drums effects. Alright, and then 9, 10, 11, 12 again are going to run in a similar kind of sequence, this time for the spreader. So drums, SPR, short for spread, atmos, SPR. Okay, so those are the bus submixes set up. In addition, some of these other buses are going to be used to route some of the components of other sounds that I want to mix together, submix before the kind of master submixes. So for example, the percussion submix that I was mentioning in the previous tutorial, I'm going to set up this to be my percussion bus. Actually, I'm going to set up this one to be my kick and snare bus. So I'm going to call this kick/snare, and I'm going to call this perk. Okay. And what I'll be doing in a minute is I'm going to be routing the auxiliaries from battery into the kick and snare and percussion buses. The rest of these I'm just going to leave blank for now because I don't know what I want to do with them yet, but they're there. And that's useful. Now 23 and 24 are corresponding to instruments 23 and 24, which I set up as my keys. Okay, for sidechaining. Now, as you'll see here, all of these buses actually have no output currently. And for these two, that's actually what I want. I want them to be silent. So I'm going to set the output for those 2 key instruments to be bus 23 and bus 24. Now, when I play these instruments in my arrangements, this is what will allow me to design my sidechain motif, and the audio from these instruments these two key instruments will go into these buses, and it will be these buses here, bus 23 and bus 24, and I can name them key 1 and key 2. It's going to be these two buses that the plugins choose as their source for sidechaining. Let's see, what else? For example, selecting all 4 of these, output 3 and 4. These are my 4 master submixes. They're going to the main output. Drums effects is going to go to bus 1. Bass effects is going to go to bus 2. Melody effects, bus 3. And atmosphere effects, bus 4. Right? Now, drum spread is going to go to bus 1. As is the kick and snare and the percussion, so I'm just going to select all of those and choose bus 1. Speed up yourself a bit. Bass spread, bus 2. Melody spread, bus 3. Atmosphere spread, bus 4. Okay. What else do I need to do? These ones I'm just going to route to output 3 and 4, the main output for now. Let's go over here. Let's route the output of our auxiliaries. So our battery auxiliaries, well, the way I set my project up, I always have my kick going to the first pair of auxiliary outputs. So in this case, that's outputs 3 and 4 in battery. I always leave the primary outputs sort of clean and vanilla, because if you're ever doing any previewing within the instrument, they always use the main outputs to preview the sound. So if you have any kind of compression or any effects on the main outputs of your instrument, then you're going to hear those sounds being previewed through those plugins, etc. And you probably don't want that. You just want to hear them native, vanilla. So anyway, so this is going to be my kick auxiliary. So I'm going to route this to bus. What was it again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, and then this is going to be my snare. That's going to go to the percussion bus, which is 14. And then the rest of these auxiliaries, I'm also going to route to the percussion bus. Chances are they will be percussive sounds, not a kick or a snare. Sorry, this snare is going to go to bus 13, my bad. The rest of these go to the percussion bus. Okay, then on to the virus. My first virus channel, always a bass sound for me. That's how I work. So that's being routed to bus 2. Okay, virus auxiliary 2. Do you know what? I've gotten that wrong. That is actually going to, because it's actually the instrument, the primary instrument channel, which is the main output for 1 and 2 for the virus, and that's going to be the bass. So this auxiliary here is actually outputs 3 and 4. So this I'm going to route to bus 3 for the melody bus, just as an assumption. Also this bus 3. It might end up being an atmospheric sound, but if it is, then I can go back into the environment and change it. And then contact auxiliaries, I honestly don't know what these sounds are going to be, so I'm just going to route them to be output 3 and 4. Now that we're in the arrangement, I'm going to zoom out a bit, and one thing we can do is, if we command click on one of the tracks and configure track header, I'm going to enable track color bars, and I'm going to disable input monitoring. It's not relevant for me, and I'm going to click done. Now we see the colors that we applied to the different tracks here in the arrangement, and that's useful because when we make a recording in one of those channels, the objects will hold that color, and that means as you build up your tracks, you will already have everything color coded, which is wicked. Now, basically from here on out, it's kind of up to you how you want to lay things out. In my tutorial, in the first tutorial where I demonstrated the template, I had all my bus submixes going on at the top of the project in this kind of space here, and I had all the auxiliaries at the bottom. Now we can do that. Unfortunately, it's a little slow, but you can basically drag all the channels that you want to where you want them. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to speed the video up here, otherwise you're going to just die of boredom. One thing I forgot to do was create the control tracks in the environment that will be controlling battery, virus, and contact. And I will do that right now. So I'm going to command tilde over to the environment, and I am going to create a new instrument, and I'm going to create 2 new multi-instruments. Okay, and I'm going to move them out of each other's way a bit. I'm going to name them. This is going to be my contact control, and I'm just going to call it K. This is going to be my virus control, and I'm just going to name it V. This is going to be my battery control, and I'm just going to name it B for simplicity. Then I'm going to color these things the same color that I colored the audio instrument objects and their auxiliaries. So the battery, I believe, was a sort of dark green. The virus, I think, was this kind of that kind of beigey thing. Contact was, I think, an orange. I think it was that color. Now, these multi-instruments, you need to tick on the boxes for the MIDI channels which you wish to enable. So for both contact and the virus, well, actually for contact, I'm just going to enable the first 4 MIDI channels because I think that's all I need. With the virus, I'm just going to enable the first 4 as well, actually, because that's the maximum that the virus can actually handle. Contact would be able to handle up to 16 MIDI channels simultaneously. Battery, not necessary, because battery is one single instrument that doesn't respond to, that doesn't create multiple different instruments. It's really only one instrument per instance of the plugin, just with multiple outputs per cell. So that I'm going to leave as it is. Now all you have to do is you have to pull the cord out of the object and into the instrument which you wish to control it with. So in this case, I'm going to plug the B instrument into battery, and it's going to ask me if I want to remove the channels port setting. Yes, I do. Remove. Same deal with virus. Remove. And with contact. Remove. Now if we go back to the arrange page, if we create a new instrument, again with that shortcut command Option S, I can reassign this object, this battery object, to the battery control track, which again, well, it'll appear in the same folder within the environment, i.e. the mixer. So here is the B control channel. I'm just going to change the icon to the battery icon. Again, virus, create new, reassign. I'm going to choose virus, and now in this case you have to choose which actual channel you want to have a track for in your arrangement. So I'm going to choose channel 1, and then I am going to use the same shortcut as before, command Option X, to create with new instrument. There are my 4 virus channels. I can also change the icon here, which I will do, to the virus. Oh, unfortunately I have to do that for each one, which is kind of annoying. So I'm going to do that for each of them. And again, same with contact. Create new, reassign. There's my K instrument, channel 1, command Option X, 2, 3, 4. And then again, change the icons. I think maybe I can do this in the environment. Hopefully. This might just change the master. Change for all subchannels, yes. No, but that's not the icon I wanted. I wanted that one. Change. Job done. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so that's, here we are, it's sort of done, it's kind of rough. That took me a little while, about 10-15 minutes maybe, just to kind of get things right. You may spend more time on it than that. I would recommend spending as much time on it as you need to. But, I mean, basically we have the we have the basic arrangement as I showed you in the previous tutorial. We have, in this sort of top third, we have all these submix buses going on here. Here's all the buses pertaining to my drums. Here's all the buses pertaining to my bass. Here's all the buses pertaining to the melody submix and atmosphere submix, and then here is my main output, output 3 and 4. And then in the middle we have the key tracks, and sorry, the control tracks. So here are my sidechain key tracks here and here, and then my battery and 4 battery control tracks. I can add more by doing Command Option S as and when I need. Again, with the virus, here are 4 virus control tracks sending on different MIDI channels to the virus. Contact, sending 4 different MIDI channels to contact, and a few just straight up audio channels if I need them, and obviously I can add more when I do. And then here at the bottom we have the battery instrument, which is outputs 1 and 2, and all the auxiliaries, which are 3 and 4, 5 and 6, etc. Same with the virus and their auxiliaries, and contact and their auxiliaries, and also this, sorry I forgot to name these, but these are my Ableton Live auxiliary tracks as well. I'll just call them Ableton Mix 1 through 4. That'll do for now. One thing I forgot to show you, and I'll show you now, is in battery, if you use battery, very useful thing to set up if you have any kind of control surfaces. What I've done is I've set up the 16 pads on the trigger finger to correspond to the 16 different cells I have set up here in this instrument. Now, a very quick way to do that is to use the learn function. When you click on the cell, click on learn, hit a MIDI note, hit another MIDI note, and that sets the span. So the first note is the lowest range of the cell that the lowest range of MIDI note that the cell will respond to, and the second note is the highest. So in this case, I'm pressing the same note twice. It maps it to just C3, and we'll move on here quickly. Okay, so now as you can see, no hands. Well, my left hand. I can now trigger the different cells independently using my controller. Just a very convenient way to build up beats or other patterns quickly. Something else that's very useful to have prepared in your template is our screen sets and the mixer as well. So let's have a look at the mixer first. To get the mixer up, you go to Window, Mixer, or Command 2. Always use shortcuts. Always use your shortcuts. Let's maximize that window. The mixer is kind of a little fiddly, and I'm just going to very quickly show you some settings that you can select to make the mixer emulate what you see in a vertical fashion on your arrangement, in the way that we have the buses, these master buses in the top third of the arrangement, and then the control tracks, and then the auxiliaries. It would be nice for the mixer to mirror that, so it's a familiar layout. The way to do that is under the View option, choose Same Instrument Tracks, and we actually in this case also want to disable this one here that says Add Signal Flow Channel Strips. What that does is it recognizes when you have a multi-channel instrument, for example battery or contact or the virus in this case, and it recognizes the fact that there are auxiliary channels set up to receive those instruments' multiple outputs. And what it does in the mixer is it puts those together. But actually, in this case, I don't want that. I want them to be separate. And basically, what we've got going on now in the mixer is we have all of these are our drums bus submixes. Then here are bass submixes. Here are the melody submixes. And here are the atmosphere submixes, and here is output 3 and 4, just exactly the same way as appears in the arrangement here. So that's kind of useful. And then on the other side, here's battery, and then here are all the auxiliary channels associated with battery. Here are all the auxiliaries and the control channel for virus, and here's contact with its auxiliaries and Ableton. I forgot to color this one. Okay, so that's the mixer. Very, very, very briefly glazing over that. I'm not meaning to go into any depth on the mixer here, just to show you how to set it up so that it looks like your arrangement. Screen sets are also extremely useful, and I really recommend using them. Screensets are actually fairly easy to use. Up here where it says screenset and the number 1, this is telling me that I'm currently looking at screenset number 1. Now basically the simple way to set it up is to push the number of the screenset you wish to create. So let's push 1. Okay, we're already in screenset 1. And then now open the windows that you think you would like to have in that screenset. So in my example, screenset number 1 was the arrangement here and the environment on my secondary display. Now obviously you can't see my secondary display, so I'll just pretend in my primary display that this is my secondary display. Whatever. It remembers the layout and the arrangement of your windows, the size of them. It remembers if you have the follow option on or off. It remembers if you have the chain link selected in what mode. It remembers the zoom that you have going on. It's great. You know, it's really, really useful, especially if you kind of like, if you're too far zoomed in to a particular part of the song and you're just like, okay, I'm done editing, I want to have a big overview again. Just hitting the 1 key is a faster thing to do than zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. So here's, you know, screen set number 1. Basically you lock it by, in this case, doing Shift L to lock. And now I can, you know, open up different windows, say for example the virus plugin. I'm doing some editing. Oh, I've zoomed in. Okay, I've done some editing. I'm done now. 1. It's zoomed out. It's a familiar default view. That's the thing. You know, you hit that key and then you're back to very familiar looking territory. It's surprisingly effective for speeding up your workflow. So you know, you set up screen set 1, hit the 2 key, and make a different arrangement of windows, and save by hitting Shift L. It's extremely, extremely, extremely useful. Speaking of screen set 2, in my case, I have a piano roll. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you the functions, or just very quickly show you a couple of preset transform functions that I made that you might want to consider making one of your own as well. So basically, if you go under Functions Transform, you can choose from a list of these preset functions, and they do a wide variety of things to the MIDI notes in the MIDI object you have selected when you open up the piano roll. So for example, Humanize randomly changes the velocity, note length, note position of a bunch of MIDI notes that you select. It's very deep, very complicated. I'm not going to even attempt to do a full thing on it now, but maybe in another tutorial we could get into that. It's potentially extremely powerful, but there are certain ways of making simple functions from the presets. So one of the ones that I use is just I want all the velocities of all the notes in this object to be 127. So I just take the velocity limiter function here, and this is basically an input output, and these are various means of filtering or modifying information, modifying data. In this case, very, very simple. I'm just going to change this preset from velocity max, which means basically it caps at a certain level. I'm just going to set it to fix, which means it fixes, it sets the velocity to the value that you describe. 127 is our maximum, and you get a little graphical demonstration of it there. And now that we've done that, to execute it, we would just we would have the notes that we wanted to apply this transformation to selected, and we would click on the operate only function there. But what I'm going to do to save it is very easy. I just type in the new name of the transformation that I want to call this. So this is a velocity fixer. And now if I hit enter, that's done. So that will show up in the list of presets when I go function transform, velocity fixer, there it is. Here's another one. Quantized note length is a useful one, which I touched on in the first tutorial. How I did that is I took this quantized note length and I just modified this parameter to be 1/16, which is that. And then I just changed the name of it to 1/16, and that saved it. So very quickly, just a little demo on that. If you get familiar with the transform feature, which I don't use very much of it, but if you become familiar with it and find it's very useful, you may set up a whole bunch of presets for yourself that'll, again, speed up your workflow. Really, really important. That's pretty much it. The other things you can do with the tracks in the environment, sorry, in the arrangement, is you can change their width, their size, and that's useful. Say, you know, for example, with these divider tracks that I've added, they don't need to be wide at all. They need to be pretty small, or maybe the smallest they can possibly be. So if you hover your mouse over to the kind of bottom left of the track, you get a little finger like that that allows you to zoom the track. So I'm just going to wrap it down to -50, which is the most narrow size it can be. Now there's other kind of modifier keys that you can use when you're resizing your tracks. For example, if you use Shift, then that basically resets all the tracks, all the channels in your arrangement to the default setting of 0. So kind of useful if you've made a bit of a hash of things and you want to just start again, right? So you know, I've messed a few of them up. You just shift click on the resize of any one of those tracks, and they all go back to 0. If you use the command key, you resize all of the channels of that type simultaneously. So in this case, I was using the no output track. That's made all the no output tracks really big. I actually want all the no output tracks to be really small, so I'm going to do that. This far zoomed out, you can't see the difference, but when we zoom in closer, you will be able to see it. But for example, my buses, you know, I want to make them a bit bigger. 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to keep my audio channels at 0. I'd like to raise these. What is that? That's -27. I wonder. Anyway, you know, I'm not going to take too much time on that. You can figure it out yourself and do it the way you want to do it. I think that's basically it. I've shown you a few useful shortcuts. Now it's up to you to get to work and think about how you want to devise your presets so that it kind of meshes with the way you like to work. But again, really, really useful thing to do. I can't recommend it highly enough. You will become much, much more productive once you get into this. So good luck and have fun.